Hello, Walking Dead fans, and welcome to my next The Walking Dead Daryl Dixon Season 3 episode review video. Before I talk about that, though, pretty important, if you haven't watched the first two seasons of The Walking Dead Daryl Dixon, or these first two episodes of The Walking Dead Daryl Dixon Season 3, then it would be my recommendation that you don't watch this detailed review any further to avoid any potential spoilers. Make sure that you Hulk smash the like button, share the video with a friend, leave me a comment in the comment section with your thoughts about this episode, your character of the episode, and your score, and subscribe to the channel. With that said, this will be The Walking Dead Daryl Dixon Season 3, Episode 2. The title of this episode is called La Ofrenda, and this will be my review reaction recap after just finishing watching the episode. We start off next to a river where Carol watches from a distance a young couple playing and kissing at the water's edge nearby. Having been looking for Carol, Daryl arrives and Carol draws his attention to where the couple is climbing up higher on the rocks. "They're so perfect," says Carol. While Daryl is more interested in the large amount of stuff that the couple has, Carol tries to don't do this, Daryl, from robbing them, but Daryl promises to only take a little and not hurt them, although Daryl takes his crossbow as an icebreaker. Then a vehicle pulls up on a nearby road and the couple hides from three men who had heard them. The bandits find the two and order them out of the water at gunpoint. The boy, Roberto, begs the bandits to leave his girlfriend Justina alone. Justina offers their belongings as Roberto tries to attack the lead bandit with a knife, but is quickly and easily disarmed. The lead bandit demands to know if they're from Solas de Alamar, but Roberto claims that they're from Santiago and just passing through. Justina pleads for the men to just take their stuff and go with one of the other bandits, agreeing that the two are just kids. However, the third bandit points out that they'll talk, which Roberto frantically denies. Unwilling to take the chance, the lead bandit raises his gun to kill the couple, but Daryl kills the other two bandits with his crossbow. Daryl moves in close, ducking a shot from the lead bandit and killing the man with the crossbow, saving the couple. As Daryl looks around, a fourth man, Manuel, runs up. Seeing what's happened, Manuel flees as Daryl grabs the lead bandit's gun and chases after him. However, Manuel is able to escape the group's jeep. Joining the group, Carol reveals that she only speaks English, and Justina thanks Daryl and Carol for saving them. Daryl asks if there's a doctor in the area that can help Carol, but Roberto claims that they don't come from this area. And then Justina argues in Spanish with her boyfriend as her grandmother can help Carol, but Roberto wants to take their chance to go. Carol asks for some food and something for her head, which the couple agrees to. Daryl asks about any nearby villages, with Roberto denying it, and Justina saying that there is a suspicious. Daryl points out that the couple doesn't look like they've been out on the road for too long. And Roberto offers an apple and again argues with his girlfriend, telling Justina that they can't go back, while Justina feels they owe Daryl and Carol for saving them. Roberto offers them some herbs and pain medicine, while Justina tells Daryl and Carol that her grandmother is a healer. Roberto finally concedes enough to point Daryl and Carol to their village a few kilometers away, but they warn Daryl and Carol that it's bad there and that the village doesn't welcome strangers. Daryl is willing to take their chances and argues with Roberto, who refuses to go home, insisting that it's a bad place. "We cannot go back. Where we come from, there is no hope for us. You don't understand. They will send her away and kill me." Roberto offers Daryl anything he wants, but Daryl threatens him and with the bandit's gun, refusing to let Carol die out here. Justina and Roberto lead Daryl and Carol reluctantly to their town, with Roberto wanting to find a way to leave once they arrive. Carol expresses her appreciation for their help, even if it's not by choice. Roberto tells Daryl that they are going to see the world, and that while it might not be so great out in the world, it's not so great in their town either. And then on the walls, various mask sculptures are mounted on pikes, while a townsperson uses a cowbell to lure a small herd of walkers into a pen, which is closed with a whip by Potts. Justina explains to Potts that they were set upon by bandits and these Americans had helped them out. Potts is visibly doubtful, but both Justina and Daryl implore her that Carol needs help. Potts reluctantly orders Gustavo to let them through the gate. Roberto leads the group through the town with various residents giving the strangers wary looks, and then guards come out and aim their guns at Daryl and Carol, while Daryl aims at Fede, the town leader, and everyone else ducks into hiding. Fede demands to know where Justina has been, and she claims that they went to the river for a swim, but bandits came and Daryl and Carol helped them. Fede is displeased that Justina brought strangers home with her, but Justina pleads with her uncle that Carol needs her help, or needs help, I should say, not her, explaining that Carol wasn't bit and Daryl and Carol's boat wrecked. Fede instructs Daryl to put his gun down, but Daryl refuses until the guards lower theirs first. Fede has his men lower their guns, and Daryl follows suit. "Welcome to Solas de Mar," Fede says. Sitting at a table, Carol is giving herbs and a tea by Justina's grandmother, Marga, to treat her infection. Justina explains that Marga is a healer, and Fede angrily rebukes Roberto for leaving in the dark with his niece without Fede's permission. Fede knows that Roberto is trying to run away with Justina before La Ofrenda, with Justina defending that they just want to be together. However, Fede points out that it nearly got them both killed. Daryl tells Fede that Carol, who is still weak, needs to lie down. Fede instructs himself as the mayor of Solas de Mar, but apologizes, telling Daryl that they don't allow outsiders to stay in town. Justina argues that they can't just turn Daryl and Carol away, while Daryl asks to stay just for one night until Carol's fever breaks. Fede is willing to provide Daryl and Carol with some supplies for the road, but tells Justina that there is nowhere for them to stay. Roberto's father, Antonio, speaks up, offering to let Daryl and Carol stay with him and pointing out that the two have saved their children. Fede finally concedes and agrees to let Daryl and Carol stay with Antonio for 2 days, which should be enough to get Carol healthy again. Antonio prepares a bed for Carol, assuring her that it's no trouble. Carol notices a poster on the wall for "See you later." Antonio leaves to find some disinfectant and bandages for Carol, while Daryl asks Roberto for some tools to fix up the boat. Once his father's gone, Roberto tells Daryl that he and Justina are being watched like hawks now, and sneaking away in the night can only work once. Roberto suggests that they can help Daryl to fix the boat in exchange for his help in leaving again, reminding Daryl that he was the one who forced them back. Daryl doesn't get what's so bad about this place, and Roberto tells him that they won't let him and Justina be together. Daryl asks if Roberto means their parents, and the young man tells him that La Ofrenda is a lottery and it will come soon. They have no time. However, Daryl is uninterested in getting involved in this situation. "When I'm not with her, nothing is good. Do you know how that is to feel that way? Because my own father has forgotten," pleads Roberto. Daryl suggests that maybe Antonio is simply old enough to know that love isn't the only thing that matters. Upset, Roberto walks away. The next morning, Carol wakes up with her fever broken and looks around at pictures of the family. Outside, Daryl loads up some tools in a wagon. Carol is feeling much better and observes Roberto and Justina kissing before the obvious disapproval of one of the townspeople causes them to stop. Antonio offers up some barbecue for breakfast, and Daryl confirms that he has what he needs to begin patching up the boat. Potts rides with the news that El Alcazar has arrived. A convoy arrives in Solas del Mar with the residents cheering and bowing. Antonio explains to Daryl and Carol that the convoy is from El Alcazar, the last of the Spanish monarchy, so El Alcazar claims. Alcazar's leader, Guillermo Torres, is to be the next Spanish king. Once a year, El Alcazar visits the northern villages, bringing gifts and offering protection. According to El Alcazar, the alliance keeps everyone safe. However, Roberto and Justina are visibly worried and unhappy. Fede greets Guillermo, who offers him a chest full of gifts. A man, Jamie, angrily interrupts, demanding to know where his daughter is, who he hasn't seen in 5 years. Jamie tries to attack Guillermo, but is restrained and dragged away by El Alcazar soldiers. A beautiful young woman, Elena, emerges from Guillermo's car. Antonio notes that it's very strange, as El Alcazar has never brought a woman before, and guesses that she's their next queen. When Elena briefly turns around, she and Potts look at each other with obvious recognition. Addressing the crowd, Guillermo announces to his subjects that the next day they will eat, drink, and hold La Ofrenda. Some of the crowd cheer, but Daryl notices Carmen and her daughter Elba going back inside instead of cheering. Antonio explains that the next day is La Ofrenda, when a girl is chosen and taken to El Alcazar. Supposedly it's to marry the girls off, but no one knows for sure as they are never seen again. It's here now, the thing we are running from, Roberto tells Daryl. Daryl and Carol realize that Roberto and Justina are afraid that she will be the next girl taken by El Alcazar. As a punishment for his actions, Jamie is strung up in the square with rocks tied to his feet and a method of torture called strapadio. Despite being in intense pain, Jamie defiantly yells at the soldiers to increase the weight. Guillermo complains and directs the men, Guillermo complies and directs his men to put the foodstuffs in one location and weapons in the storehouse. That night, Carol sits outside as Roberto and Antonio fiercely argue about his actions and Roberto's desire to run away with Justina. While Justina got lucky 5 times, she might not be so lucky this time. Daryl brings Carol 6 cans of beans that he found and tells her that he thinks that it's best if they stay out of things. Carol states that Roberto and Justina would be free if it wasn't for them, but Daryl points out that the bandits would have killed them if he hadn't intervened. Because she and Daryl made the couple come back, Carol feels like they owe it to them to help. However, Daryl just wants to get back home rather than getting involved in something again. The townspeople prepare the square for the festivities to come, with Daryl helping Antonio to string up light bulbs. Potts and Gustavo unload pigs into a corral connected to a short racetrack and some giant mass to a wagon. In one of the houses, the 6 girls, including Justina and Alba, are being dialed up for La Ofrenda. The girls embroider their names onto ribbons, and Marga informs a nervous and shaking Alba that she's up next to have her dress herbed. Doing the girl's hair, Justina tries to reassure her. Alba explains that this is her first ofrenda and her mother is nervous. Elena joins them and compliments the girl's beauty. Moving onto the balcony, Elena watches as Potts receives a note that Elena has sent to her with a smile. Potts tips her hat to Elena in agreement. Daryl asks about the deal, one of the town's daughters for a truck full of guns. Antonio states that while Fede calls it security, he calls the deal what it really is, extortion. However, Antonio is willing to reluctantly accept the deal if it helps them to survive, which is all he wants for his son, even if sometimes it makes him a bad father. Daryl thinks that if Antonio is worried about how well he's doing, he must be doing it right. Sergio ties up one of the girls' ribbons around each of the pigs. Antonio translates for Daryl and Carol as Fede talks about how the town's connection to El Alcazar and how to be chosen is an honor and to be offered into a better life in an older, better world that El Alcazar is keeping alive. The fastest pig will determine who is chosen, and the pigs are released into a short race. After a tense moment, Elba is the one chosen, to the visible relief of Roberto and Justina and the obvious distress of Elba and her mother Carmen. Looking between the couple, Daryl comments, "Guess we dodged that bullet." Unnoticed by Daryl, another El Alcazar Jeep drives into the town carrying Manuel, who is one of Guillermo's soldiers, the guy that was in the episode earlier that Daryl was shooting at. With the offering over, people dance in the streets, and Potts removes the remaining collars from the pigs. Daryl climbs into the corral to lend Potts a hand with getting the pigs back into the wagon, commenting that she seems to take care of everything from the walkers to the animals. Potts reveals that in Solas, the undead are called something else, which translates to the hollow ones, men with no heart or soul. Solas uses the walkers to patrol the walls, and it's how she could help Justina and Roberto to escape. The 3 of them had planned the escape for weeks, so nobody would know. Potts leaves Daryl to deal with the pigs and slips off down a nearby stairwell where Daryl can see her holding hands with Elena, although the latter is mostly out of Daryl's sight. Potts can't believe that she's seen Elena again, who explains that a few years ago a girl was brought to El Alcazar who was homesick and afraid like all of the girls taken were at first. Every night this girl talked about her village, Solas, and her friend, a cowboy from Barcelona. Potts reveals that Elena is talking about Sandra, and Elena tells her that she had convinced her husband to let her come this one time. It wasn't easy for Elena, who always praying that Potts would come for her. Potts tenderly kisses Elena's hand as Daryl continues to observe from a distance as he feeds the pigs. Fede notices that Daryl has a way with the pigs, and Daryl explains that his neighbors had some down the road from where he grew up. Fede invites both Daryl and Carol to join him at his table for dinner, which Daryl accepts. Daryl watches Potts coming up the stairs, and sees Elena is the one who she was secretly meeting with. And when night falls, many of the townspeople sit down for dinner. Potts and Elena continue to exchange looks while Antonio raises a glass at Carol, which she returns. Daryl and Carol explain that they had come from America via a boat, a plane, and another boat. Carol quips that this time they might try a blimp. Carol admits that they miss the people back home very much, and it's why they want to get back there so badly. Elena Guillermo asks about the outside world, and Daryl tells him that the whole world pretty much sucks. But England is the worst, as there's no one left alive there. Fede admits that he was worried about Daryl and Carol being strangers when they first came into the town, but he now has learned about them from Justina, namely that Daryl is a tracker and a hunter, while Carol works in the running communities in America. As a result, Fede welcomes their insights. Daryl and Carol compliment the food and the beauty of the town, respectively, but Carol finds some of their traditions to be surprising. One thing that Carol has learned is that the old ways are often not the best ways. In obvious attempt to change the subject, Daryl asks Marga to pass the pork, with the old woman correcting his Spanish. Fede explains that the pigs come from the southwest and have done well, having been brought by some newcomers. The newcomers were travelers over time. Solas had become a destination for people all over Spain, not just Galicia, such as the country and Valencia. Solas is a melting pot, and a few towns have prospered as much as they have, and there is a reason for that. Turning to Carmen, Fede asks her to say a few words, as Alba has received a huge honor. Carmen isn't able to get very far before breaking down into tears, so Justina takes her place, saying that they all love Alba and wish the best for her and know that God will look after Alba during her journey. Over Daryl's attempts to change the subject again, Carol asks Fede while he is surrendering the town's daughters to El Alcazar, not believing that what they get in return is worth it. Elena tells Carol that El Alcazar is Spain's hope for the future, and La Ofrenda gives these girls the opportunity to thrive and be safe. Elena points to herself as the living proof of this, with Fede confirming that El Alcazar has been good for them. Undaunted, Carol asks about Elena's family, if her mother's heart didn't break when she lost her daughter, and if everyone can just imagine how unthinkable this is for any parent. The problem is, until we joined the Alliance, Solas was under constant siege. I found a way to protect us, and no one regrets that, states Fede, although Carol doubts the last part through Justina's translation. Marga takes Carol off for questioning the way that her people live when they have found a way to make the world work for them, when Carol clearly hasn't. Marga tells Carol to come back to them when she finds a better way. Breaking the tension, Fede announces that it's time for the dance. As the conversation goes on, Daryl notices Manuel sitting at a table nearby and recognizes him from earlier, the bandit encounter. Manuel recognizes Daryl in return and draws his companion's attention to the other men. Taking a small knife, Daryl leaves, claiming that he is going to check on their belongings and make sure that everything is all right. Manuel and two Alcazar soldiers get up and follow after. In the square, the festivities continue with people placing their mask sculptures onto a bonfire. Carol continues to be uncomfortable with the situation, but acknowledges that Marga is right, that Carol is in no position to judge. Fede acknowledges that they make sacrifices, which is something that everyone has in common. Without that, they couldn't have all survived. The crowd sets the masks on fire and is unable to take it anymore. Elba leaves with her mother as Fede explains to Carol, "We burn old things, como las falas, to welcome the new. It's like a ritual of renewal, hoping to be reborn and find a better life than this, a better future for us." She is chaotic, impulsive, violent, yet cultured, and also proud. Not so long we conquered the world, huh? We rule an empire all our own, and then what happened? We could not figure out what to do with it. Just a moment later, Spain imploded. We turned on each other, brother against brother. Imagine. My duty is to protect my people from every threat. Do you understand? Even the most persistent one of all, ourselves. At the same time, chased by the three soldiers, Daryl ducks into the storehouse. Although they hear a noise from inside, the men quickly move on when a dog barks in the distance. From a weapons crate, Daryl retrieves a proper knife and a sword to use as a weapon. In a tunnel, the three soldiers split up, with one man going one way and the other two going in another direction. Daryl secretly stalks the three men, intending to kill them. On a wall, Manuel and his henchmen are drawn by a walker crawls to the pen heard earlier, contained by pots. One of the men throws a glass bottle into the pen where it shatters. Watching from behind a wall, Daryl throws a rock, drawing the two men's attention in the other direction. Daryl attacks them from behind with his sword and knife, eventually stabbing Manuel and kicking him over the wall before knocking the other men down and stabbing him through the throat. Peering over the wall, Daryl finds Manuel hanging on, dangling above the walkers. Manuel begs Daryl for help, but Daryl slashes his hands with his sword, sending Manuel falling into the herd, who, of course, devour the man as Daryl watches. And that's what ends this episode of The Walking Dead, Daryl Dixon, Season 3. So, good episode. I'll give it an 8.0 out of 10. I'm hearing a lot of good things about this episode, and it was good, but, I don't know, I'm just getting a little less interested in this show. I'm not sure why. I don't know. But, it's okay. But I want everybody back, all the main cast members back for one season or one big finale or something like that. And these spin-off shows are just kind of getting stale, in my opinion. But I still like it. I think the intro of this show is really cool, by the way. And the intro to The Walking Dead, Daryl Dixon, Season 1 and 2 as well. So, anyway, 8 out of 10. And Daryl has to be my character of the episode. So you've heard everything that I have to say. Pretty long-winded here. Don't forget to Hulk smash the like button if you're a Walking Dead fan to help me out with the YouTube algorithm. Share the video with a friend. Put this video on any one of your social media platforms. Don't forget to sound off in the comment section about what your thoughts are on this episode of The Walking Dead, Daryl Dixon. What would you rate it, and whom would be your character of the episode? Do you like all these new characters we've been introduced to? It's hard for me to pronounce some of their names. It's really a pain in the ass. And, just leave your thoughts in the comment section. And then last but certainly not least, don't forget to hit that sub button. If you're watching the video anyway, subscribe to the channel. Help me get over 100k subs. Join the team, show your damn support, and be a part of something special. And you never know what you're going to see on JDevTV.